بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. Last night I shared the incident of the individual that I encountered who had left Islam and had posed several questions of why this person was no longer interested in Islam, after which we spoke for half an hour and the person again accepted Islam. Just continuing on with one of the points that this person raised, subhanallah, and it's a lesson for all of us. Again, I don't share this very lightly. It's a very heavy incident on the family, but at any rate, there's lessons that we can derive from this. As I was talking to him, he said to me that here are my questions. He asked about 4 or 5 questions about taqdeer, about Allah, and subhanallah, it wasn't that difficult, the questions that he asked. Within 20 minutes after the conversation was done, he said to me, it's been about 1.5 years or so since the pandemic, because of which I couldn't speak to anybody about the doubts in my mind. When I went to one person, he was very harsh with me. When I went to another person, they didn't know anything about Islam. And for 1.5 years like this, despite being around so many Muslims, I couldn't speak to somebody. And when I sat and I spoke to him for 20-30 minutes, nothing too complicated, by the end of it, I could see this person's face light up that he now has a reason to become Muslim again. And the most important lesson I took from that encounter with him was that oftentimes we don't realize people may leave Islam not because of some very complex, very intricate objection to Islam. Oftentimes they have no one to discuss with. And subhanallah, Allah mentions in the Quran, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَعِظُكُمْ بِوَاحِدَةٍ أَن تَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ مَثْنَى وَفُرَادٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that I give you the advice that talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, contemplate about it alone, but also try to contemplate in groups. We need to have an avenue for our youth to discuss the questions that they have with us. And I promise you, it's not something complicated. They're not going to always come and ask these questions that I can't answer. And even if I can't answer it, I should take them to someone else. If we pretend as though this is not an issue, then like the person I spoke to the other day, is going to fester, and before you know it, the person is going to leave Islam. So the second lesson, yesterday we spoke about the lack of productivity and how it can ruin someone's life. The second lesson, and this is for all parents and everyone of a role of seniority who has people beneath them, I kid you not when I say in every waking moment, there's another challenge in fitna that's drawing people away from their deen. And the one way to prevent this is not necessarily, taking them out on a vacation or spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on some high education. MashaAllah, those are all good. The second very important thing is having open communication with your children. Make them feel comfortable that they can discuss these issues. And this is not something that one off, two off. Anybody who's going to high school, college, and subhanAllah, I interact with a lot of the youth in our masjid as well, and they all have these same questions. And it just takes one conversation and they begin to get comfortable. After one conversation, what seemed like a mountain on their shoulders is now being pushed away. But the first step is the parents. The first step is the family members, because not everyone is aware of what's happening. But the family member can see right away that something's wrong with my daughter, something's wrong with my son. And I shouldn't be someone that when the conversation of deen comes, they're too scared to talk about it. They feel as though if I open my mouth, I'm not going to be understood. Open communication is perhaps the easiest way of solving the big problem of apostasy that we face today. Just being able to communicate, and if I don't have the answer, that's fine. I'm going to go to someone who has the answers. But if they feel comfortable, then subhanAllah, they can talk about it before it becomes a serious issue. And even doctors say that when you have a problem, try to get it treated before it starts to perpetuate and get worse and worse. Our imani problems are no different. We need to identify them and try to treat them before they get worse. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve our youth And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us as responsible guardians, parents, to be able to facilitate a path for our children to discuss Islam and be firm on their faith. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.